really two main centralization problems in Bitcoin. This will solve one of the last remaining problems. And then Bitcoin, really, it's blue sky at that point. There is a fairly small window there, though. That's when push really comes to shove in 3 to 9 months. There seems to finally be a sea change in the community where people are waking up and realizing that we have really two main centralization problems in Bitcoin. And the first one is obviously mining pool centralization, where we have just a few people in the world creating these block templates and deciding what goes into a block. And that's obviously a very dangerous place to be. And the second point of centralization is we have one main software implementation of the Bitcoin consensus rules, the reference implementation, which is Bitcoin Core. And I've spent a lot of time on the channel, those who follow this, talking about just the problems, the recent problems with, it appears that Bitcoin Core has gone rogue. And there's this disturbing trend we've been seeing really since 2023, where there's increased tolerance among the, you might even say the Bitcoin intelligentsia, increased tolerance of spam. And so the two things I'm bullish on Bitcoin Knots adoption, which we're really seeing, just seeing movement away from having one centralized software implementation. And of course, Bitcoin Knots is Bitcoin Core plus the work of Luke Dasher and some patches and some things that make a lot of sense. But just this change in thinking where people are it's almost like what's happening in politics globally. We're seeing these realignments. We're seeing people waking up in many different ways. And so the two movements would be people moving to Bitcoin Knots, which can be largely symbolic, though it does have an effect on the network. And also, I'm very happy to see, even though I'm not affiliated, I don't have equity or options, or I'm not compensated in any way, I'm very excited to see Ocean Mining's hash rate taking off, because what they have is a very good product. You can use their Datum gateway, use Datum to create your own block templates and do solo mining, or you can mine with them. And this is, I'm not sure how much people realize what a problem this is, especially as we see Trump's coalition falling apart. And I'm sort of extrapolating to 2028, expecting everything to sort of move to the left again in the US. And if we still have centralized mining and we have Foundry here, and we have these attack vectors from the US government, that's going to be a real problem. So to the extent we can decentralize block template construction over the next 3 years, this will solve one of the last remaining problems. And then Bitcoin, really, it's blue sky at that point.
I quite enjoy this topic, and I'm going to, I guess, kind of tag into it a little bit, and then tee up some of the other our other guests just for thoughts or questions. But as it pertains to Knots itself, I think it's very encouraging to see that when there's an implementation that puts forward a change to how that implementation works, that it doesn't have full consensus, where a lot of people are saying, do we want to change this? That there is a very real reaction from people that are running nodes. You can actually see a difference in distribution of who's running what, which is a signal to further say that, hey, you can't just do anything and have people go along with it. There's a very real feedback to that. And, whether or not Knots gets to, a threshold where, the filtering and those things have a larger effect on the network to the point where it actually really filters out those things, I don't know. But the main point is that there's feedback for when developers go against the grain or go against, what a large swath of people would prefer. There's, it's supposed to be, if there's not consensus, then it's the status quo. And that doesn't seem to be what happened specifically with the latest update in Core. And so, yeah, I find it very encouraging. I don't know what Knots is at right now. Is it like 13%, 14%, something like that of nodes being run, which is
it depends if you're filtering out it looks like Bitcoin Core is running some AWS instances, and so you've got to. And Luke Dasher has a better. He's got a website which tracks these things and treats like AWS as a single node. But yeah, we're at CoinDance. I think we're something like 13-14%.
Yeah,
and just in a couple of months, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's quite a meaningful percentage, even just as a symbolic, like, hey, there's there's a degree of unhappiness with the direction of development.
Let me break this down for my fellow Bitcoiners. In just 8 weeks, I've seen a serious shift. More strength, more energy, and fast muscle gains. The reason? FitScript. They ran 124 biomarkers, blood, hormones, inflammation, and built a fully custom plan: nutrition, training, supplements. No guesswork, no templates. This is functional medicine meets precision fitness for high-performing men who want sovereignty over their health. If you care about optimization the way you care about your money, test, don't guess. Don't trust, verify. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to check out FitScript and see what's possible.
And the other thing in regards to ocean mining, so for those that are uncertain, what they've done, basically right now, typically if you're mining with most mining pools, those mining pools decide what transactions get into the next block. They're the ones that basically create that template. Okay, we're going to grab these transactions and put them through. Whereas with Ocean, you can pick your own template. You can say, these are the transactions that I want in. And so what that does is, when you have people in a pool where you can actually choose your own block template, it further prevents censorship of, like, again, if you have centralized mining, a lot of centralized mining, and for instance, a nation state says, oh, anybody transacting with this address, we're going to exclude them. They exclude their transactions. It's not to say that those transactions wouldn't necessarily get through eventually, but it's going to be a lot more expensive to get those transactions through. And there may be instances, if the centralization is high enough, where existing large mining pools may not build on top of a block that has sanctioned transactions in it.
Great point.
And so that could become a problem. So when you're implementing mining pools that allow people to create their own block template, it means that the mining pool doesn't get to say anything about what goes into the block. It's the individual miner who wins the block and mines it. They say, this is what's in the block, so you don't have to. We got to a point years ago where, what was it, ghash.io got to over 50% of over 50% of hash rate. And again, the issue there, like, people eventually migrated to other mining pools. And if a mining pool started to censor right now, people would have to migrate. But with an example like Ocean, you don't have to migrate in that instance. When it comes to censorship, you set your block template as you please. So it further decentralizes things. It further prevents censorship. And I mean, same with when it comes to knots and core, it kind of decentralizes things. So I'm a fan of multiple implementations. And I think that might be the first inklings of, I don't toss around the term lightly, but ossification, dare I say, where it becomes much more difficult to make changes to Bitcoin if there are many different implementations that actually have a large threshold of users. Way harder to mess around with, let alone, we're going to increase the supply cap of Bitcoin or something. Nobody's going to screw with that. So anyways, I went on a bit of a rant there, but Anil, Larry, either of you, if you have comments or questions about anything, like if you're unfamiliar, toss them out. Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have thoughts on any of this?
Go ahead, Anil.
I just think, I don't like to make decisions until I fully understand the choices in front of me. And it just goes back to the beauty of Bitcoin's backwards compatibility, in that no one is forced to make a decision at the moment. They can keep running, if they're on a previous version of Core. and to see how it plays out, or until they fully understand what's going on here. So, again, I just think that's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin.
There is a fairly small window there, though, because at some point, the current version of Core, if you don't want to upgrade, the current version probably going to be some problem with the software, and there'll be some security holes or something. So that's when push really comes to shove in 3 to 9 months.
Yeah, fair enough. Larry, I
don't have a strong view on this one way or the other. I don't feel technically competent to weigh in on it. The people I know and respect support knots and support what Ocean's trying to do in terms of templates, and also the fact that Ocean just pays better than all the other pools. And it sounded to me as if Core somewhat misbehaved. I watched some of the interactions, and the way they kind of treated everybody I thought was not so great. And I do recall a conversation with Saylor at his place way back, a bunch of us there, and we asked him, we said, what could go wrong with Bitcoin, and what are you concerned about? I said, well, the only thing I'm really concerned about is that human beings have a tendency to tinker, and this thing's pretty good. And if we got a bunch of core people doing the wrong shit, that wouldn't be a good thing. And so I don't know if this qualifies. I don't know how big a threat Knots is addressing, but because I'm not technical, but I do know that I think it's great that there are people in the community standing up and trying to defend what I consider to be the core reason that Bitcoin exists, and that is monetary sovereignty, separating money from state. I mean, NFTs, all this other shit that they try and put on the network. I mean, to me, that's always been a distraction against the core mission of the coins. So, and I'm glad people are pushing back.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a DDoS. It's a DDoS attack on Bitcoin. And whenever you see the spam come through, we certainly saw it. People like Anita Posh, doing evangelism in Africa and trying to get people to open up their wallets, and they're all full of the transaction fees are 500 sats per VByte or something, and it's a gamified DDoS attack. So I think it's actually very serious, and we can be lulled into complacency thinking, well, they're just silly pictures and they're just JPEGs. But once you start, if these things can be monetized, and if the culture changes and this becomes the way that people begin to interact with Bitcoin, then it's very dangerous.
I don't disagree with that based on what I've heard.
Yeah, 100%. Anybody that is watching and curious about really any of the stuff that we're discussing, running core versus knots, being able to, even if you're just tinkering with mining at home, using some little something like a BitAxe or something, again, peruse through the channel. There's tutorials on, how do I switch from core to knots? How do I run a home miner? How do I use something like Datum and Ocean mining? So there's tutorials on literally every single thing that we outlined here. Encourage you to check it out. And again, I'm gonna keep on showing this because I think it's important that people level up. But some mining stuff and everything is on the Zero to Hero page. So keep learning, never stop. It's great to stack sats, but you also got to stack your skills.
Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTC sessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions.